Hello, it's Em. I'm here to talk about a book I read that I have very complicated feelings about. The book was Acting the Part by Z.R. Ellor, I believe, is the name of the author. The book cover will be somewhere for you to look at. This book isn't out until December, but I was approved for an advance copy on NetGalley. My NetGalley, the way I request books on NetGalley is I browse, I find something that looks or sounds interesting, and I request it. I don't do any really pre-research or anything like that. I might request something if it's a book I've heard of, but most of the time it's books and authors I haven't heard of. They just sound interesting to me. I found out after reading this book, when I was trying to write a review for it, that this author is considered problematic for some things that he said about lesbians, I believe. I have not gone and researched what exactly he said or what made him problematic. So I just want to put that out there that, I personally have not done a deep dive into that, but I am now, after the fact, aware of that perspective. Sorry, I had to let my cat in, and now he's probably going to cause chaos, just, as per usual. All right, let's get on with the summary of this book. The main character, the narrator, is, I believe she's 17. Her name is Lily, at least at the beginning of the book. She is the star of a sci-fi fantasy TV show called Galaxy Spark. Lily has come out as queer in the press and everything. She has a co-star named Greta who plays a character who Lily's character, I can't even remember these characters' names because obviously they have these fantasy names but anyway, the characters on the show are going to have a very brief relationship. There's going to be this big kiss, right, and everything. But then they're filming the next season and they find out Greta's character is going to be killed off, and Lily's very upset because of the whole, bury your gays kind of thing, and she feels like the relationship needs to continue on the show for the fans and for the representation and things like that. Meanwhile, there's also this fake dating thing going on between Greta and Lily because they got into some trouble, PR-wise, and so for the PR, it's been decided that they'll date for a while to, get good optics. Then there's this whole other thing going on where Lily plays an online, game, role-playing, kind of a World of Warcraft thing. I can't even remember the name of this game in the book either, but in the game, Lily plays a male character named Frey. I'm going to say Frey. I don't think it's Fry like Glenn Fry. It's spelled that way, F-R-E-Y, so I know it can be said either way. I'm going to go with Frey. Just going to pick one. And uses a voice modulator in the game to keep people from recognizing her voice. But then someone in the game calls, says, "Oh, you're trans, that's cool," and that kind of strikes Lily and gets her thinking, and Lily kind of realizes that, yeah, actually she doesn't go by he as she transfers in this story. She goes to they, them, and prefers Frey as a name. So from there on out. But the problem is, Lily spends a lot of this book really, really angry that everyone keeps saying she and her, even though they haven't told anyone except their brother about how they want to change their pronouns and their name. And I don't think that's super fair, and it kind of makes Frey unlikable at that point because, it's cards on the table. I have a non-binary child. We changed their pronouns, we changed their name. It's a it's a process. You can't get mad at people every time they forget. At least as long as they're trying and not ignoring your wishes. But you also can't be mad if they don't know to call you something else when you've always been this other name and these other pronouns to them. So I just felt it made Frey really unlikable and unreasonable, because they were like, oh my god, every time they used she, her, my name, I felt like, they were driving shards of glass into me or whatever. I'm like, or just tell them, hey. And I realized that some of the conflict in this is about, being concerned for their career and how that might, be impacted if they, transition. And they're also still really invested in this representation on the show that they're on and things like that. And then there's also, this romance between Frey and Greta. Greta, who, as it turns out, is ace, but you really don't get a whole lot of that. So I think what this book is trying to do is really commendable. The representation and dealing with a really thorny issue of representation in media and whose job is it to make sure. And having worked in film and publishing, these are really complex issues that a book is not going to solve. But Frey gets upset when somebody tries to do the right thing for the wrong reasons and goes off on how intention, isn't like good intentions don't count or whatever. But then at the same time, later on, is very upset when, they are not convinced that someone's intentions are, even though they're doing the thing that Frey wants them to do, Frey's upset when they're not sure the intention is there. And I'm like, well, you said intentions don't matter. Does the ends justify the means or not? So there's not a lot of grace in this book for people who struggle to adapt, and I just don't feel like that's very fair. And I get that representation is important, but you're not going to change an industry like the film industry overnight. It's a big ship, and it doesn't turn on a dime. And the thing about the film industry is, until there's a monetary reason to do something, they won't. That's just a fact. So until they see that there's money to be made in good representation, and you're going to say, well, but money shouldn't be the reason they do it. They should do it because it's the right thing. That's not going to happen. That's just not. And I hate to break it to you, but that's not how it works there. They'll do it for the optics because it looks good and it sounds good, and they'll do it if there's money in it. They won't do it. I think there are a lot of people in the industry who have, again, good intentions, but a lot of times, by the time they get to the position of power that allows them to implement the changes that need to be made, those good intentions have been beaten down into the desire to hold on to the power that they have. Because what happens is you go up the ladder and then you get really, really fixated on staying on top. And the way you stay on top is often not by doing the right thing. It sucks, but that's the realistic view. And that's just my little side thing. So anyway, as I said, I gave this book a 3.5. The more I think about it, the less I like it, though. So over time, that may get revised down. I really couldn't like the main character. And then I heard about, again, I didn't go looking for the details, but then I heard that the author, who is trans, which, I felt like, okay, great. This person's writing from a modicum of experience. The author's also, I guess, a literary agent. So I feel like there's some privilege there. And that was another thing in this book, Lily/phrase privilege, was for me problematic. So their mom is this hotshot producer who's been grooming them for a life in front of the camera, like their whole lives, and they're like, I'm not even sure this is what I want. Meanwhile, Greta has been like clawing, fighting for what, and having struggled in the industry as someone who came from nowhere and nothing, I really find it obnoxious when there are characters who have things handed to them and then don't appreciate it and, take it for granted. And that's just a personal thing for me. So that might not matter to you reading it if you choose to read it. Editing him here. And I just wanted to say there was one other thing I forgot to mention about this book that was kind of obnoxious, is that, like, there's a twist that is so obvious, like, it from the beginning, and I don't know why it's even tried to be passed off as a twist, because it's just so insanely obvious. But yeah, so yeah. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know. It was okay. It's out in December. You can check it out for yourself if you're so inclined. I would like to see, I don't know, something with representation, but maybe with likable representation instead of feeling like these people are being unreasonable and angry for no good reason. Or I shouldn't say no good reason, but angry without being forthcoming about it. It just, I don't know, it just didn't land right for me. Like, I can understand being angry if you've said, look, this is my name, these are my pronouns, and then people consistently refuse to use them. My child has dealt with that. But yeah, if you're not telling people, then you can't expect them to be psychic and know that you've changed. If you look and sound and act the same in almost every other way, But anyway, so that is Acting the Part by E.R. Ellor, E.R. Ellor, I think. I don't know. Again, you'll see the book cover on the screen somewhere. And if you've read it, or if you end up reading it when it comes out, let me know your thoughts. If you know more about the drama around the author, let me know in the comments what that story is. And I will see you next time.